3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. You made it. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. That was an interesting little 5 minutes we just did. If you were listening to the end of the halftime show, I really did mean to come in guns a-blazing. Hope it didn't sound that way. I guess it kind of did.
Marv is ready to fight.
Well,
just kidding.
No, but if we'll catch you up because some of you probably did just tune in. Maybe you came in during the commercial break, so we'll catch you up on what's going on. Lots to get to on today's program. Our good friend Langston Moore, the former Gamecock D lineman, longtime NFLer, will join us in mere moments. We'll get ready for the Super Bowl. Did you know that was this weekend?
The Superb Owl, yes.
There's been so much going on locally. I know this is a local program. I know we go across the state, so I say local. We're a South Carolina-based program. But typically, we do talk a lot of NFL, but there has been so much going on locally or either within the business of what we follow most, which is college football or college athletics. I feel like have we maybe all 4 days so far that we've maybe had like a collective maybe 15 minutes of Super Bowl talk?
The only Super Bowl talk we really had is how mad the 49ers were about the lack of hardness of the practice field and how I thought it was, completely insane for the Las Vegas Raiders to allow their division rival to get the nicer facilities.
Well, by the way, have you seen the latest to stir up the conspiracy theorists?
Oh, the fire alarm boards?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy. See, that's something I'm surprised doesn't happen more often because let me tell you, when the Nashville Predators were hosting the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Stanley Cup Final, I really thought about pulling that for the Pittsburgh Penguins hotel because I got a tip where they were staying. I thought about it.
No.
But then I was like, I don't want to go to jail. Can't do that. Can't do that. I thought about it.
That's really crappy.
It is.
I don't care if you're the most hated team. That's just it's beyond uncool.
Never pull a fire alarm.
And if you're for a lot of reasons, not just about the team. I mean, you're making the firemen leave the station when they don't need to. What if something really did happen in the interim and you've pulled true first responders away from a need? It's just the whole thing is so juvenile. It's not even. It's beyond juvenile. I don't know what. I don't know what that is, but and I do hope they find the guy that did it.
I'm sure they can. There's cameras.
Yeah, there's cameras everywhere.
You don't get away with that now.
Yeah. So I really do, and I don't mean to sound like a stick in the mud, but that's not. Again, it's not cool for a lot of reasons, and the number one reason really may be that you are pulling firemen and potentially cops, paramedics from real need. That's the number one thing. The second one is that you're waking up a football team and the other patrons.
There's more than just the team that is in that.
Yeah, and the other people that are staying. So the whole thing, it's ridiculous. But I know that the conspiracy theorists are like, see, told you. It's all about the Chiefs and Taylor. Stop it. Just stop it. Anyway, Langston will join us in a little bit. A couple of big opportunities for the Gamecock men's and women's basketball teams this weekend. Carolina girls won last night. I tweeted out, by the way, I know you were there. I tweeted out, and I don't have it in front of me, but something to the effect of, does any other team quietly win by 40 the way Dawn Staley's team does? I mean, that was just a methodical, again, it was kind of like the game with Vandy the other day. Vandy the other day. No, Mississippi. And, they were playing well.
Similar games.
Mississippi was playing well for a little. Yeah, Vandy was too. You're right. Maybe both of them a little bit. And then all of a sudden you look up and it's like, oh. But, last night, and I know the reason is because it's basically a constant, 2 possession scoring to 1 possession scoring, and ultimately that builds. I get it. But it doesn't necessarily feel, and this is complimentary, Carolina is just out there beating your brains in. It's just it's almost like death by 1,000 paper cuts because they're just so good at executing. And suddenly last night it went from 10 to 20 something. And then again, the final was nearly 40. I mean, I was just like, whoa.
It got to 40 at one point. I think Missouri scored late to make it a 38-point win.
But Dawn's team remains undefeated. Connecticut, number 11 in the country, coming in. They're banged up. Carolina now down 2 players. last night, if you didn't hear, right before the game, the team's official Twitter feed very succinctly saying that Sanaya Ja was suspended for conduct detrimental to the team. And that was it. And you were in postgame last night. And Dawn was, I'm not saying she was all smiles about this, but she was in a good mood. But I know she was asked at least twice about what was going on and didn't want to go too far, huh?
She said we're going to take it day by day. And then when asked if she was going to elaborate on what happened to lead to a suspension, she obviously was going to decline to speak to specifics.
And I think, you got to ask whoever. I know our buddy Pete Iacobelli asked one of the questions. You got to ask, and she can just say no, or I'll let you know later, or whatever she wants to say. So there's that. And, of course, Camila Cardoso playing with the Brazilian national team as they attempt to qualify for the Olympics this summer in Paris. So, again, good luck to them over the course of the next few days. So Carolina and UConn both come in to Sunday's game at CLA a bit shorthanded. But I know people here will be excited to cheer against Paige Beckers, who they didn't get to cheer against last year when she was hurt. She's good.
She can play.
She can play. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun. We'll have a lot of coverage of that for you. And tomorrow, Lamont Paris's team looks to get their 9th conference victory of the year, go to 21 overall. Heavy favorites against Vanderbilt. I think I saw the BPI gives Carolina it's about the same percentages, if I remember, that Carolina had in reverse against Tennessee.
So that was what, 92?
92, I think it was.
EBPI gives it more of a 97. This is high. Miles Studi revenge game.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be fun. But we'll have some sound from Coach, who was on Carolina Calls last night. Before we talk to Langston, let me get you into the local news of the day. And then there's two other sort of intertwined college football stories to discuss. But we'll start here at home. If you have not yet heard, South Carolina tight ends coach Justin Stepp, who had, of course, been wide receivers coach under Shane for the first 3 years of the Beamer era, has decided to leave Columbia. He will become the wide receiver coach at the University of Illinois. Based on the conversations I had this morning, this was actually something that maybe had been in the works for roughly a week, give or take, maybe not quite a week. So it was known before the news broke last night. And again, this is what I was alluding to for those of you who heard me on with Terry and Elijah at the end of the halftime show, or if you didn't, I'll catch you up. But there was a text from a listener saying that he had lost faith in Shane Beamer and that this was a big L. Okay, if you feel that way, you feel that way. Again, it is not my job to tell you how to feel, but it is part of my job to try and present what is factual. And then try to form an opinion based on that. First off, straight up, Justin left. Now I'm not here. If I sound like I'm being whatever, I'm not. But Justin left. Montario Hardesty a couple of weeks ago was fired. Justin was moved from wide receiver coach to tight ends coach. And Shane explained all of that, saying that he likes what Justin does, wanted to apply some of that to tight ends, had an opportunity, in the opinion of the head coach, to bring in someone, with all due respect, and maybe Shane didn't say it this way, but I will, who's got a better resume. That's okay. I talk all the time around here, in any sport, really, but not just here. But, I say this for any college program. More good players. You get to recruit in college. High school, by and large, they got to live where your school is, by and large. The pros, you draft them or you sign them to free agent contracts. In college, it's a free-for-all until you hit your limit. More good players. Well, the same basic principle, in my opinion, can hold true for coaching. And if you see an opportunity, not just in your own opinion, but in the opinion of others that you may speak with about what your program needs in terms of upgrades, and you have the opportunity to make that change, then you do it. because it's good for your program. So clearly the feeling was, and there's really no other way to say this to make it sound negative, but clearly the feeling was, while Justin was doing a good job, there's the feeling that James Coley is going to do a better job. Now, ask me again, as I told you this morning, ask me again at Halloween. I'll let you know. Because until then, I can't tell you what spring is going to look like. I can't tell you what summer workouts are going to look like. And through the first month of the year, as they get their feet wet, I don't know. Ask me again around Halloween. I'll tell you how things are going. But I don't and for those who may feel like that listener, Marv, who texted in last hour, Justin left. He didn't get fired. And while some may say, well, moving from wide receiver coach to tight ends coach is a demotion, is it? I mean, if you think it is, then you think it is. I can't, I don't know. I know there was an alternative, Elijah, and I'm going to say it again. Montario Hardesty got fired because there wasn't enough going on from his position in the head coach's point of view, from the head coach's point of view. And the same may well be true from the wide receiver position. But it wasn't obviously a complete knock against the coach or the person that is Justin Stepp. They wanted him to stay. They wanted him to apply some of his techniques to the tight end room. Justin clearly didn't want to do that, and that's fine on Justin. So that's not really, I don't know why that's a judgment on Shane. And I'm not really, Shane doesn't need me to stick up for him. Shane makes $6-something million. Shane doesn't need Jay Phillips to come on the radio and stick up for him, okay? So that's not what I'm doing here. I'm just looking at it as I do my job observationally, saying, A, they kept him even though they moved him, and B, he decided to leave on his own anyway. And again, based on the conversations I've had, there was absolutely nothing that forced him out or like, hey, we're going to keep you at tight end, but you really ought to go look for work. As I understand it, that conversation never, ever, ever took place. Justin Stepp wanted to leave the program to be a wide receiver coach, and that's what he wants to do. That's on him. Good for him. All the best in Champaign. Our good friend Andrew Kiddick is a proud alum of the University of Illinois. Go Illini. I got zero issue, but for people like that to say this is an L and a terrible loss for the program, is it? Why? He left on his own. I don't know what else to say. So and clearly the production was not there. Whatever it was, production. When I say production, I don't just mean stats. The job. James Coley, in Shane Beamer's opinion, and Dowell Loggins' opinion, is an upgrade. I don't know what else to say. Seriously, I don't know what else to say.
Also, position coaches move around all the time anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hard-pressed to see some position coaches stay more than 5 years at a school. Because if they're not getting that promotion, then more than likely you're going to have to go somewhere else so you can keep climbing the ladder. I mean, in 5 years, I know it's a long time away from now, I guarantee you a good chunk of this coaching staff will not be here because if you're really good, you know what happens? You get poached.
Right, yeah.
You go somewhere else. Yeah. You get valued somewhere else to get bigger opportunities. Or, like James Coley went from Texas A&M. He was there for how many years? It wasn't a long time.
He just won.
And he moves here. Position coaches in college football move around all the time. While it's good to have valuable ones, and it's good to have as many good recruiters and everything you can on the staff, because clearly a lot of players have been recruited by Justin. And when I talked to, like Gage Larvadan yesterday, name dropped him when talking about one of the reasons why he came here, because he really liked Justin, because Justin recruited him. But it's not worth a win, I think, in the grand scheme of things. Not trying to diminish position coaches in college football. They have an important job, but there's not a lot of stability in terms of
No, it's a very transient business. It's a very transient business. And Justin was a very popular guy and a very nice man. Met him many times. He's a good dude. But he did leave on his own. Langston Moore coming up. Talking Super Bowl, more college football. It's the Postgame Show.
I just think Brock is just real smart, and the moment is never too big for him, and he's just been the same person he's always been since he stepped in the huddle.
Deebo Samuel on his quarterback, Brock Purdy, leading up to Super Bowl 58 Sunday night, Las Vegas, Nevada, as they say out there. Nevada. Learned that when I was out there. The locals don't say Nevada. Nevada.
I don't know if I've ever said it the same way twice.
Nah, it's fine. Well, just say Vegas, man. They're cool. They don't care.
Vegas is the entire state.
Just come spend your money. They don't care. They don't care. Welcome back in. It's the Postgame Show on a Friday. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you, and happy to be joined, as we always are, by our very good friend Langston Moore, the former Gamecock D-lineman, team captain, NFLer, husband, father, part-time softball coach, barbecue aficionado, backroads of Texas and Midwest, navigator, children's book author, public speaker, and so much more. Soon to be father of a college athlete. Have fun with all of the navigation of the new college rules, by the way, man. Not like it was when you were playing, huh?
You broke up a little bit. What'd you say, Jay?
I said, have fun being the dad of a college athlete. It's not going to be the same as when you were playing.
Oh, definitely not. I'm learning the word detachment and what that actually means. That means like my phone isn't plugged up. It means I have no control to sit over here and shut up and be happy what happens.
Look, we got a lot to get to, and we won't get to all of it today. But let's start with the obvious, and that is the game on Sunday. Very tight spread. I'm surprised, actually. I really did think, Langston, by the time it opened at San Francisco -2.5, that it might, because of a few factors, make its way towards a slight favorite for Kansas City. But it's currently Niners -1.5, basically a pick 'em. I love both of these defenses. That's your expertise. Do you believe, like I do and many others, that this is probably of this run that Kansas City has been on their best defense yet?
It's definitely improved, and starting out from what it was in the beginning of the year to obviously the ascension all the way through the playoffs. And, it hasn't been easy. They had to go on the road. They had to play a Josh Allen, that freakazoid there, and then they had to play the MVP of the league, and then, they've done a phenomenal job, but all of that starts with, Spagnuolo and, of course, one of my old mentors, not mentors, or he was the mentee of one of our mentors, Joe Cullen. Shout out to Sterling Lucas, who also worked with Joe Cullen up there at Baltimore with the Baltimore Ravens on the defensive line. But they've just done a phenomenal job of their blitz packaging. Obviously, Chris Jones figuring out different ways for him to get those one-on-one matchups. I hated it last week, a couple weeks ago, for the low country guy, John Simpson. Had a phenomenal year, but, it just always reminds me that there's a lot of monsters in the NFL, and then you meet another monster that's bigger than your monster, and you're like, wow, I didn't even think those things were possible. And just to see the matchup that they continue to put Chris Jones on one side to get the one-on-one pass rush, and the way they've disguised their zone blitzes and then their simulated pressures, they've just done a phenomenal job from the back end all the way to the front. So really excited to see what they're going to do on the other side of the ball, the other side with the 49ers with Coach Wilkes. He's done a good job. They've kind of it's really felt like the 49ers defense for themselves not to get off on the other side. But all in all, it's going to be a really great defensive matchup. But with that, there's two quarterbacks, and well, we know for sure one guy is a really high-level quarterback, but there's another one. There's been some question marks and different things. But all in all, with the Chiefs, they have been riding this defense and using Patrick Mahomes and all his greatness to not go out there and put up all those offensive numbers and all those things because, again, it's been kind of inconsistent. But the defense has been the one constant for them to get them where they are right now into the Super Bowl, all these AFC championships for the last few years. They have been riding a wave of that defense for the last few years, and I'm really excited to see, because when you get these two kind of weak layoffs, it's like the Alabama, getting in that week, Nick Saban, all those folks getting all that time to try to figure out the scheme. So it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, but with these two defensive coordinators on both sides, the 49ers and for the Chiefs, I feel like it's going to be a really tough game plan. It's going to be interesting to see how these offenses adjust starting out in the beginning of the game too.
Langston, I'm glad you touched on Chris Jones earlier, because I want to ask you about the battle in the trenches. And while a lot of people are going to be fixated on the quarterback matchups, as we do in the Super Bowl every year, I think Patrick Mahomes learned a lesson the hard way back in 2021 when they played the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. And while Mahomes might have had one of his more impressive arm talent days, he did so under duress and with very little time to throw. And what was one of the best offenses in the NFL was held to 9 points, because they got clubbed to death on the line of scrimmage. So when you look at both of these offensive and defensive lines and the battle in the trenches, who do you think has an advantage on that side of the football?
I want to, just looking at the rosters, I would, and that's the thing that it kind of continues to surprise me about the Chiefs is because, okay, you see Chris Jones, all right, let's kick the line towards that way, but that's where Spags and those folks are doing such a good job. Okay, you want to kick the protection this way. All right, we're going to bring this pressure from the other side, or if you think the pressure's come from this side, we're going to do some different things. But just looking at the roster, I mean, the 49ers should have, you know, the bullets in the gun, to go after Patrick Mahomes, because one of the weaknesses of this Kansas City Chiefs teams, besides the wide receivers not lining up and dropping all the balls and all those different things, but again, that's they've put that to rest. It's the offensive tackle position for the Kansas City Chiefs, and not to say that their mincemeat are different than it's just a liability, but if there is a weakness, and then you look across the matchup that the 49ers, what they have in Nick Bosa, I mean, Bosa is playing at a very high level. He's got the sacks, he's gotten a lot of turnovers, he's got some sack fumbles. I mean, just all of the things, as Rod Marinelli used to say, a lot of times it's the factor grade. Can you get the holding penalties? Can you get the tip balls? Can you get the double and triple teams to get your other guy, to get Javon Kinlaw singled up so he can get some simulated pressure? Can you figure out some ways for Hargrave to get some internal pressure? And the one thing that you know about the Kansas City Chiefs this year is that, especially in the playoffs, is that Patrick Mahomes hasn't been turning the football over, and he hasn't been getting sacked. And so, but I don't know if that's going to be the same thing when we come into this matchup this week, because I would bet that the 49ers defensive line, with all the first-round picks and all the free agents and all the depth, they've really built that defensive line to try to come up against, to play against a guy like Patrick Mahomes, because the only way you could stop Brady, I'm thinking about the Giants, I'm thinking about some of the times when you ever could really say, man, Brady had a bad game, is you're not going to do it with a whole bunch of blitzing and pressure. You're going to do it with the 4 interior guys and guys winning their one-on-one battles. And so with Patrick Mahomes, especially where he's at right now, one of the big emphasis for him, where he's at, he's got the MVPs, he's got some championships, but he wants to be on a trajectory, and he wants to see the field like Tom Brady has been seeing the field toward the back end of his career, where he can kind of just go ahead and close his eyes and say, okay, I know what's coming. Let's not even look at the first 2 reads. Let me just go ahead and hit this third read, because that's going to be open right away. And so the only way you can combat that is just trying to get somebody internally who's right there in front of the ball to get really close to the quarterback as quick as you can. That's the fastest way to do it. And that's why you pay a lot of those guys. That's why you pay Hargrave all of that money, so those things can kind of show themselves there. But with all that being said, with a couple weeks off, I talked about the defense and those folks coming up with different ways to, stop offenses. Give Andy Reid a couple weeks and Patrick Mahomes together, because they see the field, player coach the better, know better. They're probably one of the best tandems I ever see kind of put those things together on the field, where the coach and the player can kind of see these things. I mean, a couple weeks ago, man, Patrick Mahomes on the 4th down, they did a play where they cross motion the wide receiver. They tried to make it look like it was going to be a sprint out to one side, but they sprinted it out to the other side, and then Patrick Mahomes stuck his foot in the ground and hit the third receiver back across the field. And so you could hear it in my voice. It makes me sick to my stomach, because it was defended, and it was a 4th down play, and then Travis Kelce makes this catch, and you're like, and so really all you can do is just be like, we got to play another down. And it's just like baseball. Okay, maybe you fouled that one off, or maybe lucky, that was a double instead of a home run. You're best off. Okay, let me just line up and go to the next batter. Let's just maybe just line up and just go to the next, because again, Kansas City, you can have all of the right answers, but Patrick Mahomes can be the thing that kind of comes out and is the cheat code. And that's the thing, especially in this situation in the Super Bowl. I know Brock Purdy's been playing at a high level, but it's one thing to think about these things and say, oh man, when I get into it, it's going to be like that. But to do it under the lights, we talked about, his high performance. I just can't bet against Patrick Mahomes, that offense, them putting us all together, because again, there's going to be so much pressure, but really going to be a really, really exciting matchup just to see this across the board, that chess match back and forth, and then the individual matchups between the offense and the defensive line.
Hard to go against Mahomes. He's Langston Moore, breaking down the Super Bowl. More with him coming up. Let me tell you about our great friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. You know, they're local. They're not for profit. That means they're here to help you and your family right here in the Midlands. The money stays in the Midlands. That's what they do, all right? They don't have stockholders. They return earnings back to members as lower loan rates and fewer fees. So whether you're looking for a new credit card or something big like a mortgage or anything in between, car loan, home equity line, putting the kids through school, whatever your loan needs, Palmetto Citizens ready to help you save, and they'll work with you to customize terms and payments to fit your needs and budget. My wife and I are customers of Palmetto Citizens. We love the service we've gotten from them over the years. We use the Millwood branch. They've got 14 of them all across the Midlands, so whichever one you want to use, great people ready to help you out, or you can apply online right now at palmettocitizens.org. That's Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. Achieve your potential. We're talking the big game on Sunday, which we'll have on these airwaves, I might add. In case you, for whatever reasons, and some of you can't work and other things, you know, you may be traveling, can't get it on television, fret not. We will have it as part of the Westwood One broadcast. Is Kevin Harlan calling again?
I believe so. I think it is all the primetime NFL.
I think it's Kevin Harlan.
And if it is, you might as well go ahead. If you're not a big Tony Romo fan, not a lot of people are. He's not my favorite, but you know what? It might be worth turning down the TV and getting your radio. And
if you can sync it up.
If you can sync it up, Kevin Harlan's the best in the business.
Harlan is good, man.
Nice guy, too. I incredibly awesome individual.
I've never met him. I've met some of those dudes. I've never met Kevin, but I love Jim Nantz. Romo's fine. People, whatever. I don't know. But you're right. Some people don't like him. And, of course, I think he lives where Langston lives in the Dallas Metroplex. People still like Tony Romo where you live?
Yeah, for the most part, because, he's not playing now. So, it's kind of like any football player's career. The further away you get from it, either, they hate you a lot more or they love you a lot more. So I think that's one of the deals right there for Tony. But, they might be hating the decision who their defensive coordinator is more. But I don't know. It's been kind of quiet around here to hear that Mike Zimmer is going to be making his way back to the Dallas Cowboys for the third time to be the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least it's not Rex Ryan, right?
Well, here's the thing about it. And so, and this goes back to Jimmy, not Jimmy, I'm sorry, to the owner of the team. How much do you say you really want to win? Because obviously it's kind of like some of these college staffs where you got to fill a certain position and you need to fill it with somebody very good, but you can't threaten the head coach because if the Cowboys start off and go 0-5 and say they hired Mike Vrabel, for instance, to be their defensive coordinator and they had to cut the head of, is Mike McCarthy going to be looking over his shoulder the whole time? So That's why, to me, this was a cool little move. Okay, yeah, that's cool, but Mike Zimmer these kids don't know who Mike Zimmer is. They don't, Mike is a great guy. He's a great coach, but man, we talking about 1993, 94. We talking about Dave Campo. What are we talking about? Like, he was back there during. If you know that trivia question, Dave Campbell was the head coach and Mike Zimmer was the defensive coordinator. So my whole point, it just doesn't sound like a move that engenders winning. It sounds like a move to kind of more to placate the room, make everybody feel happy. But that's not how we win things and do difficult things in the NFL or in life. Period. To be successful, you got to kind of put some of those pressures in there. So I was really disappointed. That's why a guy like Rex Ryan can't come into that room because he's going to be too big of a personality for Mike McCarthy.
It's been nearly 30 years since the Dallas Cowboys went to the Super Bowl, man. So that's all I got to say about that.
Those championships are on VHS.
It's crazy. Let's go back to this weekend's game. And you mentioned it a little bit already in terms of the Niners trying to find a way to affect Patrick Mahomes. Again, you're a defensive lineman by trade. So take us more in depth on that and the challenges that are presented. Not so much the chess match, perhaps, but what about Mahomes as he's gotten older, especially, do you look at, and Andy Reid, you mentioned that relationship, but what makes it potentially even more difficult? Because I think he's only been sacked like twice in the last, what was it, Elijah?
Oh, it was like years of playoff.
Yeah, it was crazy, Langston. And again, that's you guys up front. What frustrates you most, and how do you try to find a way to negate what he does?
Well, what frustrates you most, especially as a defensive lineman, is as a defender, period, is like, okay, you're chasing the guy, it's third and whatever, and he does, with that dad bod, you're like, oh, I got him. And he just does just enough to get that first down. Or he does the shimmy where he takes it from his right hand and pitches it with his left hand, and it's an incomplete pass as opposed to sack or one of those deals where he just doesn't put the ball. He does a lot of things to make those dynamic plays, but he doesn't put the ball in danger. And so there's nothing that makes you more exhausted, that gets you just, it's only so long before it kind of breaks the will and the spirit of the defenders. And so that's why you have to come with kind of the wave of defensive linemen and try to continue to have fresh guys in there and just to continue to send it like a track meet. But obviously all of that kind of starts off with trying to stop the run, because one of the great things that's been going on for the Kansas City Chiefs this year is obviously Pacheco, is him running the football, getting out there, them figuring out ways, and he's running very, very angry. I love all the analogies and different things that people say about how he runs. But the whole point is, no matter who the quarterback is, if you have a running game, that makes every quarterback's life a lot easier, and especially if you have somebody who is as dynamic and as a winner and can do all those little things to exhaust the defense and use his legs when need be, when everything else is taken away and he doesn't have to make that kind of throw into traffic. You add that added little thing of the running game to it, just makes you really, really tired, really just breaks and dampens your spirit. And that's going to be the biggest thing, I think, for the 49ers is can they, as a defense, make sure that they keep it up, keep the energy up for 4 quarters, not get to a point where it's like, oh, here we kind of go again. Oh man, we gotta figure out how to do this, because if there's going to be somebody who comes, everybody's going to be excited to play into the Super Bowl, no doubt. I mean, even the long snapper, it's going to be the best damn long snapper night of his life he's ever had, right? But I think somebody like for Pacheco, he's going to be super motivated because of how much the 49ers run the game, how much he's been successful in the playoffs, and just obviously as getting those tough yards when they need to kill the clock, getting that 4-minute drill. But across the way with McCaffrey and Deebo Samuels and that whole dynamic game at the 49ers, I think that's going to light a fire so big underneath Pacheco and that offensive line that it's going to be one of those deals like, oh yeah, that's going to be tough to try to defend the run and stop Patrick Mahomes. So, again, if it was me as a defensive coordinator, you got to completely obliterate the run, and then you got to kind of you got to do the Bill Belichick thing and kind of take 2 guys to take out Travis Kelce, make sure you don't get him any catches. But, again, Andy Reid's going to figure out all these different ways through shifts and motions and screen games and lateral screens. All these things are going to be at his disposal, and nobody does that better than Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So I definitely wouldn't want to be Steve Wilkes and that defense, because, again, it's tough just to see the creativity that Andy Reid comes up with game in, game out, and then that's coupled in with Patrick Mahomes not putting the ball. They execute those things, but also don't put the ball in danger. And so it just makes it really, really frustrating as a defender. Like, man, I just can't get my footing. I just can't get my hits. I can't get into my groove like a hitter in baseball, and that's going to be one of the most difficult things for the 49ers. But if they can get up and make it really one-dimensional, Patrick just has to make these big throws that can really help the 49ers, the whole team as a whole.
So I got the answer, by the way. If I'm the Niners defenders, I just look at Kelce, and I'm like, dude, Lady Gaga's way better than Taylor.
Look here, man. If there's somebody who could talk trash, I mean, they had to rein Travis Kelce in like years ago. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard the story about, when his brother Jason was still kind of playing for the Eagles way back when Andy Reid was a coach, was a coach with the Eagles, and they're thinking about drafting Travis Kelce. When he went to the Kansas City Chiefs, he had to call his brother Jason because of just the arrogance of Kelce. And then you saw it the last couple of weeks during the AFC Championship. He just does such a great job of just getting under people's skin. And, I mean, if you see all this stuff on TV and you're like, man, I can't wait to play that guy, and he's giving you the trash talk and all that stuff, like, you can't fall for it because he's a really savvy player. Don't let him fool you. He's an old 30-year-old guy. He knows exactly what he's doing. So you can say Lady Gaga and all that different stuff, but he's probably got a nice little retort to it. Because if I know anything, that Kansas City defense is probably giving it to him in practice, and he's heard it all year. Yeah. And Big Red is probably, giving him some few shots as well.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize till this week that Andy Reid's known her longer than he has, because she's from Pennsylvania, and he met her when he was, when she was still coming up. So, like, he's like all excited for him. So there's a whole new angle to the Chiefs and Taylor Swift, man. Like, Andy Reid's been her bud for a long time. More to do with Langston here. I want to get Langston's take on what is Chip Kelly giving UCLA, like, just the biggest couple of middle fingers. I
double barrel on that.
I mean, it seems it. We'll get into a final few thoughts with our good friend Langston Moore as the postgame show continues. 12 minutes in front of 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. Welcome in, or back in, I guess I should say, to the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. Our good friend Langston Moore with us. And when Langston is on, we always love to remind you about checking out athletesandartists.net. That's athletesandartists.net. There you will find all the information on the Just a Chicken series of books, which are fantastic, not only for the young Gamecock reader in your life, and as a father, I can attest, every once in a while I will still maybe share the memory of sending Langston a picture of my youngest right when the original came out, and she must have read it like 10 straight times. I remember picking her up from zoo camp because I had gotten it that day from Langston at a remote, and I picked her up. And she was like, oh, this, she was just thrilled. So your young readers, and even if they like some other team, as Langston says, there's no meanness towards other mascots. It's not like Larry David choking Elmo the other day on the Today Show.
Somebody had to do it.
Which, by the way, that was terrible. Man, I'm sorry. I'm on Elmo's side. That was awful. I was watching it. I was like, oh, my God.
That might have been one of the funniest things.
You can't do that, Larry. But anyway, to come back around to it, Just a Chicken Little used to was a rooster. Fantastic for your young readers. You can get Langston and Coach P into a school near you. You can check out the Button Gut podcast. All of that and more. And again, one day, perhaps, you will be fortunate enough to see the elusive Kev Rocher. And you can get all of that information at athletesandartists.net. Yeah, I didn't like that Elmo thing. Didn't like that.
Oh, it was hilarious.
It's funny, but not, I don't know. And Larry David, well, anyway, I don't want to go there. Langston, Chip Kelly, clearly does not want to lead the University of California at Los Angeles into the Big Ten Conference, man. I want an NFL job. Nope. All right, I'll take a college job. People were like, he don't want to coach in college or the Big Ten. Oh, he does. Just don't want to coach UCLA, Langston.
Does that seem like what it is? Well, obviously that's one of the caveats to it.
I don't know what else it could be at this point. Seriously.
Well, it might be one of those deals where it's kind of like, Chip is, talking about personalities in the room. It'd take a certain type of person to want him to be their offensive coordinator. So, he has NFL coaching experience. He has, if you're a coach of a certain ilk and you're not comfortable with, you heard about reports of him going to the Commanders. And so maybe Dan Quinn is like, I don't want to get a guy like in here with that. I think they're bringing in Brian Johnson from the Eagles, phenomenal hire, but I think they're just going to relegate him to just being the pass game coordinator. So I don't know if Chip wanted to marry up with, having two kind of deals in the room, meaning I need to be the final say. I don't want to acquiesce to some of his decisions and some of those different deals. So I think it might have been, he looked around. He maybe had some of those interviews. Just like I said, maybe that 49ers, not that 49ers job, the Raiders job out there.
Yep.
Look, with Hugh Jackson and Marvin Lewis and some of those guys, I could just tell you their personality and maybe some of if you ain't one of those Western Pennsylvania guys, or Marv ain't going to have certain dudes, even though he's not the head coach, but he is the advisor, and AP's going to listen to him. I just think it was maybe more limited options for him in the NFL being a coordinator and a coach than we thought. So with that being said, he probably looked around the college landscape again and was like, well, I don't have to be the head coach and be responsible for recruiting. We're doing the NIL stuff. Let me just go to team number 33 in the NFL. I mean, Ohio State, I'm sorry. Team number 34 maybe. And let me just go be the OC over there. And, you guys handle all that stuff. Let me just go ahead and be as dynamic and as crazy as I can with all these pieces and all that stuff that you're going to go out there and get. And we can just do that from there. And so, again, this is the thing. But Ohio State, this is the other thing you have to think about. They're tooling up. You know what I'm saying? Whatever else is going on, but, they're tooling up from getting your boy from the Patriots.
Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien. And that's why this is happening. I don't want to bury the lead on people, and I apologize. That's me as a host. Bill O'Brien was hired as the Ohio State offensive coordinator a couple weeks ago. Today, he has accepted the job as head coach at Boston College, and Chip Kelly is going to leave UCLA to become the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. So this is all happening, but that's why I say Chip Kelly was trying like heck to get – he's been trying like heck for 2 or 3 weeks to get out of UCLA. And today, like, this is it. But you're right, Langston. This is, I'm with you. No, this is Team 33. Ohio State is Team 33. That's fair. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Because again, maybe he did have an option to say, come on out here to work with the Cardinals. And I know Chip Kelly and kind of maybe his hubris and, his bank account, he's like, I'm straight. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I want to work with like a contender. These are the 5 teams I'm thinking about: weather, money, possibility to get some championships. And again, this might be a pathway for me to get back into being a head coach, not in the college ranks, but back into the NFL ranks. So I think it just maybe looked around the landscape and was like, maybe that's not going to happen again for me. So let me just go work for team number 33, number 34 in the NFL.
Yeah, and it really might be that they could be about team number 30. I don't know, man. Cardinals, Panthers might be behind Ohio State.
Certainly more fan support.
Oh, I know. I'm not one of those guys. Look, the Panthers would beat Ohio State. I get it. Don't at me. Who you like, real quick? Who you like? Niners, Chiefs?
Chiefs. I told you I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes, that body, and Andy Reid and his body. He got a cheeseburger, so I'm betting. I'm putting money on them.
Follow Langston at Remove the Chains on Twitter, athletesанdartists.net. Enjoy the game, sir. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That is Langston Moore, in hour 2 of the Postgame Show. Coming up. 4 o'clock on a Friday. Welcome back in. Second hour of the Postgame Show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia, South Carolina. I'm pointing at him, which is rude, but I did it anyway, is Elijah Campbell. I am Jay Phillips. You are you, and we appreciate you choosing to be with us this afternoon, wherever you might be, listening to us on the air, on the app, online. Thanks again, as always, to our good friend Langston Moore for hanging out, talking a little Super Bowl. And again, at the end of the segment, for those of you who heard it, Chip Kelly is leaving UCLA, not for a job in the NFL, which is what we thought he was hunting for, and he was. He's going to become the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, as Bill O'Brien, who had been hired as the Ohio State OC, today has been hired as the head coach at Boston College. And Bill is from up that way. Kind of surprised Chip didn't want that job. He's from up that way, too. But now, suddenly, it's funny. You and I, a couple of weeks ago, and I know Carolina has had a staff departure today. But you and I thought, like, well, I think they're pretty much done now. Maybe a little thing here or there could happen.
Just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, all of a sudden now, the UCLA, and I realize it's not the Southern Cal job or the Oregon job or something like that, but it is a good gig. And, you are one of the schools that's been saved, if you will. The UCLA job is open. And I don't know enough, quite honestly, about the staff that Chip is leaving behind. In terms of doing what Michigan was able to do in promoting Sharon Moore. And at this point, do you have to almost treat that kind of – they're going into the Big Ten. I don't know that you can have somebody who's not done it or all of a sudden go, hey, Johnny, remember how you were going to be the coordinator? Yeah. I'm going to – it's almost like telling the, a line cook – hey, I need you to be head chef. Yeah, I haven't ever done that before. I don't really care. And, oh, by the way, we're all, as a kitchen staff, leaving this particular diner, and we're going to a 5-star. All right?
And I'm going to need you to run it.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. If you were to hire – and, again, I'm not saying they are. Bruce Feldman has a piece out right now. David Shaw, the former Stanford coach, P.J. Fleck, the Minnesota coach, he has as possibilities. I'll remind all of you again, and Bruce is great, so this isn't – I never say this as a knock. The national guys, Bruce Feldman, Pete Thamel, Stuart Mandel, Nicole Auerbach, Heather Dinich, those folks, they get these coaching lists primarily from agents who throw names out. Sometimes it's legit, sometimes it's not. This is so raw that I don't know, but nevertheless, this is throwing a gigantic amount of chaos into the situation where typically now the college calendar goes towards spring football, and there's the occasional bit of movement, but this is a premier job. Again, I'm not here to say, boy, UCLA, they win championships. I realize they don't. I think, Elijah, they're one of those sleeping giant category schools. I really do. I mean, when you play in that city, the thing is they just don't care that much about football. Because if they cared as much about football as their crosstown rival, they could be just as good as their crosstown rival because you don't have to go very far to find gobs and gobs of talent. You just don't. I mean, that's a metro area of what? 10 million? The weather's always good.
They were winning 10 games a year for 2 or 3 years when Josh Rosen was quarterbacking and Jim Mora was coaching. I mean, they were Jim Mora proof for 5 or 6 years.
When I was coming up and Aikman was out there, Terry Donahue. Some older folks in me are going, Troy Donahue was coaching? He was an actor, for those of you who don't know. But they were good then. They were winning, Fiesta Bowls and such. They weren't winning national titles. They were winning 9, 10 games, So, yeah, they've had pockets. And again, they'll get talent. But this throws things again into a sort of a chaotic thing. And again, with O'Brien going to Boston College, there's a really good get for an ACC program that's gone to bowl games in 3 of the last 4 years or something. So they're
might have even gotten an upgrade in terms of college head coaching.
Probably so, man. I mean, listen, I said before too. I know we're kind of jumping around on this story, but I'm genuinely surprised. Maybe not like, wow, but why wasn't Bill O'Brien in the mix, or did he want to be in the mix for NFL vacancies? He did a fine job as the head coach of the Houston Texans. Considering what you have to work with and who you have to work for in Houston, I think he did a fine job.
Well, it was the best that franchise has ever been.
Yeah.
He is, honest to God, the best coach they've had in terms of reaching success.
So you've seen, imagine if he could work for somebody good. What if he worked for Mr. Kraft? And you know what? Maybe this is I hope Gerard Mayo makes it. But Gerard is in the same situation that a lot of people are, even the situation that Kalen DeBoer is in. Oh, you're the guy that follows the guy, huh? Good luck. Pulling for you. The difference, I think, for Gerard Mayo is that the guy hadn't been the guy since the guy left. The guy being Tom Brady.
They haven't been good, since 2020.
So you're taking over for something that's not so great. And that probably makes Gerard Mayo's job easier with the Pats. But if it doesn't work out, and O'Brien's, I think from where Boston College is to the facility in Foxborough, probably, I don't know, with traffic, probably about an hour. I don't know. But it's up there.
Well, he's not far away now.
Yeah, it's a lot closer than Columbus or Houston. I'm better at geography than math. Promise. But again, Chip Kelly is leaving UCLA. And here's the thing, too. You have to think, if you're the brass at UCLA, we better start talking to agents and vetting potential head coaches, because it's pretty obvious Chip wants out. Now, I thought after the NFL vacancies were done and he didn't get any of them, I was like, all right. And then maybe this was sort of a surprise. I know BC interviewed maybe all, but I think they interviewed 4 different candidates on Tuesday. And then they probably made the O'Brien decision last night, and they got announced this morning. And then within hours. So clearly Ryan Day had already been on the horn to Chip and Bill. All right, Bill's out. Chip, you want the job? Yes. I do. Please. Now. I know they've worked together. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ryan Day used to coach or either play for Chip Kelly?
He played for Chip Kelly at New Hampshire.
Okay. Played for him. And that would be, 20 years ago-ish?
It'd been the aughts. Yeah, that was one of the jobs that Chip had before going to Oregon.
So, obviously, a good, long-time relationship. But again, I come back around to it. Chip Kelly clearly did not want to be the head coach of the UCLA Bruin program anymore, and especially at a time when big change is in the offing for those schools. So if I'm UCLA, I am hacked the bleep off.
This is the worst time to do that.
Yeah.
To leave, because, we're well into the spring semester. Students won't be able to transfer here as freely. They will not have anybody new for spring ball. And you can have guys bounce now. Like, the transfer portal will technically open for those players. They can maybe commit somewhere, but they cannot just change schools.
Yeah, you can't change schools now
in the middle of the semester. But that means they're not going to be participating in your spring football program, meaning you're not going to really have much of a spring football program if a lot of kids are opting to leave, meaning whoever takes this job will not only be hemorrhaging certain players who wanted to go there to play for Chip Kelly. They're also going to not have much of a formalized spring practice, because you're going to have to glue everything together at the last second, meaning you're going to get everybody in together after frantically putting together a roster for the first time in the fall. That is a recipe for disaster. And I don't care if you summon up or hire Nick Saban out of the, convince him to unretire to coach UCLA. He would go there, and they'll go 3-9 in the first year. It's going to be a disaster, regardless of who they actually end up hiring, because of how impossible this position Chip Kelly left him in, because it's February 9th. Teams are going to be starting spring practices here really soon.
Yeah.
And UCLA doesn't even know what the coaching staff's going to look like, because I bet you there's going to be some coaches that are going to jump ship too, because there's going to be other opportunities open up elsewhere as a result of this. And you don't know what your players or what players you're going to have. So while everybody else is getting better and are able to install certain offenses, defensive schemes, in the spring, you basically have a whole lot of nothing. And you are going to be severely behind everybody else going into a very competitive conference where even the middle class of the Big Ten is a lot better than what they've been accustomed to in the Pac-12, with the exception of last year.
Well, because you got the money to spend to make everything better. We're seeing some signs of that in a way. Again, I'm blending things now, but you look at like Southeastern Conference basketball. A few years back, it's like we got to get better, y'all. And, well, let's spend some money on it, okay? And now they are, and you see the results. I don't believe this, but I think you could make a really nice case that this is almost like sabotage. I mean, that you're doing this methodically and with intent. It's not Chip's been a college coach a long time. He's been a Pac-12 coach a long time. All the things you just laid out, he's completely aware of. So again, stories will ultimately come out, but I'm going to come back to the basic thing that I feel. He does not want that job, obviously. But the question isn't, why would you do this now? Well, it is, I guess. Let me correct myself. Why? Not about the now so much. Why don't you want the job? And if you didn't want the job, why didn't you just quit? Because you'll get another job. You're Chip Kelly. People know you've got a great offensive mind. They know you've had success at a good school. And while you didn't have success as the Niners head coach, you had a modicum of success in Philadelphia. Why? So there's something there, man.
Oh, well, I know what it is. Because there were reports that he was possibly getting fired after the Southern Cal game, after they got completely blanked by Cal. They played at Cal and scored only 7 points.
Negotiate a buyout.
And there were reports. Well, that's when you're in a vengeful mood and you're seeking revenge, buyouts and compromises aren't necessarily at the top of your priority list because you felt they hung you out to dry. Yeah. You beat the downtown rival, did them a solid, and then didn't get reciprocated with anything else. Maybe he didn't get the security he wanted. Maybe he remembers a lot of things that were said to him because maybe that decision to fire him was definitely made. But because they beat Southern Cal like a bleeping drum on national television, the fan base was probably more encouraged to have him to stay. Maybe some other people in the building wanted him to stay a little more. But there are some other people that held on to some pretty vengeful feelings. And he probably has a memory that lasts pretty long time. And I think there are probably some things that might have been said to him or reports that he read that he was like, okay, I'll put it in the back pocket. And when the time came to really stick it to him, he wasn't going to think about who he's affecting because mission number one is to put you in the worst position possible because you put him in a bad position.
Well, then while I don't want to believe what I said, the way you lay it out,
I think this is it's a vengeance mission here. I think that's exactly what this was.
Well, it may well work, dude. Because again, even if they were if none of this other crap had ever happened. Mm-hmm. And the Pac-12 is the Pac-12 next year.
You're still in a heap of trouble going into next year.
Yeah. I mean, signing days, both are over. Spring ball is coming. Transfers can't transfer right now. School has started and school is in.
Hot name assistant position coaches have already settled elsewhere.
Got football news around here to get to. We'll get you set up for Carolina and Vanderbilt as well. Lots more to do. Join us if you'd like to weigh in. 803-404-6100. It's the Postgame Show. 20 minutes after 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. One more note on the departure of Chip Kelly leaving as head coach of UCLA to become offensive coordinator at Ohio State. And by the way, real quick, one more personal opinion. No matter how you try and couch it, I don't think this is a step up.
Oh, from taking a head coaching job in the Big Ten to an OC job in the Big Ten? No.
I just don't, so again, there's something else at work. And Elijah found out something. A statement released just a little while ago from the AD of UCLA, Martin Jarmond. Earlier this morning, Coach Chip Kelly informed me of his decision to depart UCLA. I want to sincerely thank Chip for his service to UCLA football and our student athletes across the past 6 seasons. Wish the best to him and Jill moving forward. I guess Jill's his wife.
It'd be weird if it was someone else, I guess. Maybe he lives with a friend named Jill.
A national search for the next head coach of UCLA football has already begun. As we continue preparation for our move to the Big Ten Conference later this year, it is imperative that we have the right leader in place to position the program to compete at the highest level for our student athletes, fans, and university. We are confident we will find a leader who develops young men on and off the field and embodies our true Bruin values. We understand the importance of the timing of this search and will heed the advice of Coach Wooden to be quick, but not to hurry. Let me pause. This is where it gets kind of interesting all of a sudden. We appreciate the tremendous support we receive from our fans and alumni. Now, more than ever, we need our Bruin family to step up and support our student athletes by coming to the Rose Bowl for games and providing NIL opportunities through our official marketplace or collective. There are links because this was an email. We are excited about the future of UCLA football. Go Bruins. So in all of this, please give us more money. Buy a T-shirt. Send us $10.
Something.
Anything.
Pass around the offering plate.
Yeah. Please.
That was more of a pretty please. That was an additional had an additional pinch of desperation.
Yes. No, thank you. Yes.
Like
Elijah, they feel desperate, man. He's leaving. This is again, I don't know. The story will ultimately be told. But this is rough. And you and I were just talking off air. If PJ Fleck, who's, again, a current head coach in the Big Ten Conference at Minnesota, decides he wants the gig, and he might, Mrs. Fleck, I don't know if her name's Jill or not.
Wouldn't that be
But whatever her name is, might go, PJ. Outside right now, it's like 3. Can we go to L.A. where it'll never be 3? Where it'll hardly ever be 43?
30.
Yes, dear. So.
But then, here's the thing, too, is taking the UCLA job right now and leaving another school in the same situation Chip Kelly did. I don't want to say career suicide, but is it a partial career sabotage? Because for one, for reasons we laid out in the last segment, and if you missed it, it is leaving this late. You're not going to be able to get a lot of the players you want in year one. You're not going to have a real spring session of practices. You're not going to be able to install anything until the fall, late summer, fall. So you're already behind the 8 ball for year one. If you win, if a coach goes there right now and next year they go 5-7, especially given their Big Ten schedule, you should give that coach Coach of the Year votes. And I'm not being facetious.
I know what you mean.
So you are packing up to be under 500 and have a terrible first year. You're going to leave a really bad taste in the mouth of the school you leave because you leave them in significantly worse circumstances than the ones you're going into. A lot of people take notes on that. So even if you do really well at UCLA and there's an opening that happens down the road, something similar to like what happened with Nick Saban in Alabama, but to a lesser degree, and a job you really want, a lot of people are going to take notes. They're not going to want the guy who left the other school high and dry for the big shiny toy out west. I think there's a lot that will go into that. He'll have to Mrs. Fleck must really, really like warmer weather if that were the case.
Yeah. The UCLA schedule for 2024, they open at Hawaii, host Indiana, week 3, wait for it, not non-con, at LSU,
Ew.
host Oregon, at Penn State, host Minnesota, PJ Fleck, be careful, at Rutgers, at Nebraska. There's a week off in between those, so their bye week is in between two trips, one obviously a long way and the other pretty far. Host Iowa, at Washington, host Southern California, and I guess with the quirk in the schedule, they host Fresno State to close it out. So I don't know why that's that weekend, but whatever.
Just a remarkable way to
in
start.
addition to the Big Ten schedule, you go to LSU.
Oh, and Fresno State has been really good the last few years.
Yeah.
Too. You can chalk that up as a loss as well.
PJ might just stay at Minnesota.
If I'm PJ, I'm staying at Minnesota.
David Shaw would be, I think, there's a safe hire.
Yeah, because
That's a
David
safe
Shaw's not leaving anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean he's available for one.
Highly respected.
Yeah, so he's not leaving another school, high and dry.
And is a good enough just X's and O's football coach and has done good with limited resources
Right.
to, you know what? He might be able to get you to a reasonably respectable 5-7.
I would think,
one.
that to me, that's a good hire. It didn't end well at Stanford, but he is respected. The NFL folks like him. Big Ten football is a different brand of big boy football. Again, he's available.
He is a football coach. He has availability.
Right. The timing is everything, and he's in California. That's got to mean something too. I think in terms of recruiting base.
That would be a home run in this scenario.
Yeah, or at least a solid double off the wall, man. But maybe that's it. But again, if you've just tuned in, it's just been a weird morning. Bill O'Brien, former Patriots offensive coordinator, Penn State head coach, Texans head coach, Alabama offensive coordinator, had been hired to be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. This morning, I guess probably last night, took the job at Boston College as head coach. And this morning, Chip Kelly was hired by Ryan Day to become offensive coordinator at Ohio State. And Chip had obviously already been shopping his services to multiple NFL teams as an OC. None of them wanted him for that job, but he was still looking to get out. And then this happened.
You know how bad other people at UCLA wanted Chip Kelly out? According to the LA Times, this is back, right after, still after it was announced that he was going to be retained. There is a UCLA fan who helped raise $2,060 for a 30-minute flyover for a plane that carried a banner that read, "Read the room, fire Chip Kelly." And this came after a year in which they had their lowest amount of donor contributions in years and one of their worst attendances in years.
I suppose that's why Mr. Jarman put links to
please give me money.
To give money.
Yeah, please give us money.
And buy
because
shirts.
instead of buying, $2,000 worth of plain advertisements to tell us to fire this guy, the guy left. So can you reinvest that money into us, please, to help the new guy because we're SOL?
The Gamecocks had a staff departure. We'll get into that for you. And again, we'll start getting you ready for another big SEC opportunity tomorrow for Lamont Paris's team. You're listening to the Friday edition of the Postgame Show.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to report to you that are causing some delays on our roadways here this Friday afternoon. We'll start here in Columbia on Bower Parkway at Piney Grove Road. An accident has been reported there just recently, causing traffic moving pretty slowly through that area. Another one in Lexington County. This one on Corley Mill Road at Lee Cleckley Road. In Richland County at Decker Boulevard near O'Neill Court. And then in Richland County as well, an accident has just been reported on Forest Drive at Highway 12 near Percival Road. So traffic's moving pretty slowly there in Forest Drive. And then an accident's been reported as well in Richland County and I-26 eastbound over at Lake Murray Boulevard, exit 102.
We're going to talk a little Carolina football here. Some news today that we'll catch you up on if you have not yet heard it. By now, I would imagine a lot of you have. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. By the way, Forest at Percival. That's one of those, like, super giant intersections right there at the interstate, too, and that's the main entrance to the fort right behind you. Well, depending on which way you're going. And a big Walmart.
So traffic is probably...
Well, they could snarl. But that's one of those big intersections.
That could be not fun.
That's over near my neck of the woods, so I'm over that way from time to time.
Closer, okay. Yeah, I could see
near,
not in, but
not in, near. I go to that Sam's every once in a while. I like Sam's.
You a Sam's Club member?
Yeah, when you need 30 pounds of coffee.
That'll last me a week.
That's about right. I did run out of Coffee Mate today. That was bad. I forgot to go get some, too. Honey, if you're listening.
There is a need.
I better go get some before in the morning. Because we're also out of milk. I found that out the hard way, too.
Ooh.
I don't mind black coffee, but...
See, that's how I drink my coffee. I have not put anything in it.
If you have not heard, Justin Stepp is leaving as officially South Carolina's tight ends coach. You may recall that a few weeks ago he was moved from wide receiver to tight ends as James Coley was brought onto the staff by Shane Beamer and Dowell Loggins. Today, Justin announcing, I guess last night this came out, but Justin is leaving to become wide receivers coach again at the University of Illinois under Brett Bielema. And Justin has just in the last hour released the following statement. It's very nice. Forever grateful to Coach Beamer and Gamecock football for the opportunity to serve this program the last 3 years. My family and I are excited about the future, but we'll always be grateful for our time spent and the relationships formed in Columbia. I know there are great things ahead for these players, coaches, and all Gamecock fans. Signed, Justin Stepp. Again, I think by and large, most of you, and I would think that the bulk of this audience is college football fans and knows that this business is quite transient, dare I say at times nomadic. And so on the surface, okay, this is a coach that's leaving for another job. Sometimes coaches move sideways. Sometimes they move up in terms of position or opportunity, or maybe the family just wants something different. And listen, I don't have all the nuts and bolts and ins and outs. I have spoken to people around the program about this today, and I'll just reiterate because we had somebody hit the station text line earlier and say that this departure makes this particular fan, and I imagine where there's one, there's more, lose faith in Shane Beamer and that this is a big loss. Again, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. And I understand it. Look, he's from Peoria. He played at Furman. He's a South Carolinian, wanted to come home. It's not pretty obvious. It's obvious that the head coach and the offensive coordinator felt they needed to upgrade the wide receiver position, the coaching position. But it doesn't mean, the way I take it anyway, that Justin was demoted. And let me reiterate what I said earlier for those of you who missed it. Montario Hardesty was fired. All right? They didn't reassign Montario. They fired him. They liked Justin, and they wanted Justin's teaching and coaching and relationships to all continue on this staff. And, his recruiting, everything. They wanted it to continue, and at a position that is similar. And on top of that, from what I've gathered, Dowell and Shane have both in the past coached tight ends. So as Justin were to potentially adjust to a new position where there are still plenty of the same techniques used, they could help him out. And they didn't fire him. Now, some people may say it was a demotion. I'm not here for that. I don't know. That's not up to me. I don't. Is it? I mean, if you kept your salary and they didn't move him to off-field analyst, I can appreciate where somebody might come from with that. I can, but they didn't fire him. And on top of it, let me stress this: Justin left voluntarily. Justin and his agent were clearly seeking other opportunities. One came along, he took it. That's great. That's fine. This is professional, the professional realm. This happens. What I don't understand, Elijah, and again, the guy that hit us on the text line didn't respond back. I almost pleaded with him to, not in a combative way, because it may well illustrate what some other people are thinking. Why do you think this is such a bad thing? Why would you lose confidence in Shane if Shane kept him? I would almost think like you might gain some confidence in realizing that your head coach understands, along with his offensive coordinator, that you're going to need more from that position as a coach, and technically on the field, works both ways, right? Than you've been getting. That's the decision that they came to. That's also their job. Whether you agree with it or not, whether I agree with it or not, whether you, Elijah, agree with it or not, any fan, that's irrelevant. This is their job. And they'll live and die by the decisions they make. So I don't quite understand why this would be something that would cause a fan to lose confidence in the head coach if the head coach and his offensive coordinator are doing what they can in their mind to strengthen the coaching staff and thus strengthen the team, while at the same time keeping this coach because they value what it is that he has. So that's all. So I really am. I'm dead serious. I'm not trying to be combative here. I just don't understand that. And again, I didn't get a reasoning from this person when he hit the station. It was just, that's it. There was no why. And that's what I'm looking for here. So that's all.
Here's the thing. I get where you're coming from because I think the text was maybe a little hyperbolic. Now, in terms of like this being catastrophic, this being a reason that you shouldn't trust the coaching staff, right? And even, because I want to use an example here, and I want to use an example of Trooper Taylor. Trooper Taylor is one of the more widely respected wide receivers coaches in all of college football. He has rarely stayed at a place more than 5 years. Started his career as a GA, and then eventually got promoted to defensive backs coach and wide receivers coach at Baylor. So through all of those, he was there for 5 years. That's probably the longest. New Mexico for 1 year, different position coach. Tulane for 4 years at wide receiver. Was at Tennessee for 3, where he did running backs and wide receivers. And then for 1 year at Oklahoma State, for 3 at Auburn, for 4 at Arkansas State, for 2 at Duke. And now he is at Texas A&M. He is as well respected as any position coach that I know of in college football coaching circles. And for a lot of reasons. But at all those places that I stated, all of them had various levels of success. And during the years that he was there at Tennessee, late in the Fulmer years, some of that success was not because Trooper Taylor was there calling plays. He developed players, sure. But them being there and him leaving, there was no correlation between the team's success and the wide receivers coach in terms of the grand scheme of things. Same thing with Oklahoma State. They weren't significantly better in 2008 than they were any other year. I wouldn't have lost, confidence in Mike Gundy because he lost Trooper Taylor. No one was losing confidence or getting more confidence in Mike Elko when he inherited Trooper Taylor to be one of his assistants.
Right.
Or, if you were to have left when David Cutcliffe was there, no one was going to lose confidence in David Cutcliffe. I just feel like being doom and gloom over the loss of a wide receiver or of a tight ends coach, no matter how good they are, is a little hyperbolic. Because if you didn't lose confidence in the coaching staff after blowing a lead in the last 10 minutes to Florida at home in a game that proved to be costly to your bowl chances, but this was the last straw, that's where I'm having the mental disconnect here. The things that happen on the field, I feel like, are more important than even some assistant coaches. And I don't want to diminish the role of these assistant coaches. They do a fantastic job in team building and recruiting and building the relationship with players, because sometimes as a head coach, you have to be a little adversarial with players every now and then to try to get the best out of them. So sometimes it is good cop and bad cop. Sometimes these assistant coaches have to be the ones to reassure players and give them confidence if they have a bad day in practice and the head coach is really hard on them. Sometimes their role is to be there and to say, hey, you're incredibly talented. I see you do drills every day. Like you still got this. Let's get better tomorrow. That's the role of a lot of them. But it's not going to make the difference between going 5-7 and 8-4.
And it clearly, I'm with you. And again, I'll say it clearly illustrates that Shane valued Justin Stepp. That even if they felt they needed a change at what he was doing, it wasn't all because of what he wasn't doing. Mm-hmm. There was a way to collaborate a little bit differently. Now, is that spin, if that's how it's coming out, or what kind of the way that Shane talked about it when he hired James Coley and moved Justin over? Yeah, probably to some degree. I mean, that's part of your gig. But like I say, Monterio got fired. So they were like, all right, thank you for your service. For Justin, it was like, we want you to stay. We want you to do something else and continue to be who you are. And Justin didn't want to do that. And that's fine. But I'm not sure what that has to do with Shane. Gamecock Hoops on the other side. You're listening to the Postgame Show. 11 minutes in front of 5 o'clock here on this. I was getting ready to say why was I going to say Thursday when I've said it's Friday all day?
You know how close I was yesterday during one of the traffic reports saying like Wednesday?
Yeah. It's
I had
Friday.
to double check and make sure it was the day.
Inside of a half hour, by the way, we'll be inviting two of you on board for the final edition of the football season of the Wild Card Showdown. And it's a special one since it's the big game. The one and only Josh Yellman, who controls almost everything we do here, has provided us with a $50 O'Hara's gift certificate and a 3-game series ticket package next weekend. That's a prize pack if you can beat us. And here's something even better. Typically, there's not always a winner. Usually there is because we stink. The best of the two participants, regardless of whether they beat us or not, will be winning this prize package.
So really, you just got to beat the other participant.
So that's it. That's all you got to do this time. That's how excited we are for the big game. So that's coming up. We will invite two of you on board during that 5:15 break. So it's coming up shortly. In the meantime, speaking of the phones, James wants to weigh in on Justin Stepp's departure from the Gamecock football staff. Hey, James.
Hey, sir, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm fine. Really, I hate to see what he done to Justin, but or what happened to Justin. But I don't think that's a real problem, and I don't think the running backs was a real problem. What I lose faith in him, he hasn't addressed the real problem they got, and that's the offensive line. I don't care what kind of running back you got. If you're getting tackled 3 yards in the backfield, I mean, he ain't even touched or addressed that problem, and that is a problem. I'm sorry.
Well, he's certainly addressed it. I disagree with you there. I will agree with you that it was definitely an issue last year, and let's face it, it was one that was unforeseen in terms of having to go about 12 deep.
It was the biggest.
Yeah,
I would say.
So we can agree that it was a massive problem and point of concern last year. I disagree when you say they have not even addressed it. They clearly have. They have gone into the portal. They've got some pretty good recruits that they're getting there. Can some of those guys, again, like we joked yesterday, everybody would love a Caden Proctor. You know, you'd love a true freshman who can come in and yeah, you know, I don't know, but I think trust me, James, that football staff understands that they better get that offensive line fixed now. So I would disagree with you on they haven't addressed it. They have addressed it. Will it be successful?
I think he's right with that being probably the most important part of the offense that needs to get better.
I don't.
That was definitely on the head.
Amen. I agree. You know, so I'm going to cut that in two. It is the biggest issue. It's also the one that I think they're spending a lot of time on in recruiting, both portal and high school. And again, like we said too, I think the third tenet there will be strength and conditioning. Because from some of the conversations I've had with guys that have played up front, some of it was a concern over just getting them stronger. There's a difference, you know. That's why it's maybe called strength and conditioning,
not or.
And I think sometimes, especially with younger bodies, from some of the experts that I have spoken with, strength it can minimize some of the injuries maybe that they had. Now, again, that's not necessarily a reflection on who's doing what in terms of doing the strength part and the conditioning part, but that could be one of the things. So, again, I think you have to take a hard look at what type of injuries those young men were suffering from and what can be done. Are they flukish, or are they things, again, that you can fix? Sometimes you just get you get rolled over, right? But sometimes there may be other things that you can do to absorb the punishment. I don't know. Again, that's not my job. But they're addressing it, James. I would not be concerned about that part of it. They are addressing what is definitely a problem.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that.
And he's right about the correlation of success to offensive line to running back because they got a ton of talent in the running back room now. So
hey, listen, I mean, listen, every football coach, well, nearly every football coach at every level of the sport, okay, from Pop Warner to the National Football League, run and stop the run, and that all is because of the line.
The big nasties.
So just take that for what it is. But I do think they're addressing it. All right, we will get into some previewing of Carolina Vanderbilt, headlines of the day, wild card showdown, drive around the SEC, a busy final hour coming at you on the Postgame Show.
From the WIS Traffic Center, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to report to you that are causing some delays on the roadways. We'll go ahead and start off in Lexington County on Highway 1 and Augusta Road at I-26. That accident's recently been reported to be causing some traffic jams to that area. Here in Columbia, an accident on I-26 eastbound at Lake Murray Boulevard near exit 102. It's causing traffic to move pretty slowly. And another one on I-26 eastbound, this one over at St. Andrews Road near exit 106. And in Lexington County, an accident's been reported on US 76 near Murray-Lindler Road.
It is 5 o'clock on a Friday. It's also the final hour of the Postgame Show. Welcome back in. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you in the Herndon Chevy Studios. Appreciate you being with us. We will start with last night's win for Dawn Staley's basketball team, a big one over Mizzou, as Carolina stays as the only undefeated team in the country. And again, last night, dare I say quietly beating Missouri by 38 points, 83-45, doing it without Camila Cardoso. Also last night, if you missed it right before the game, the official Gamecock women's basketball Twitter feed announcing that Sanaya Jah had been suspended for conduct detrimental to the team. No real elaboration from Coach Dawn Staley after the ball game, but did say there was a path back for Sanaya, so we'll continue to watch that one. But in the meantime, if you would please, Elijah, cut number 31. Again, South Carolina winning by 38 points. It's because Missouri couldn't really score a lot. Dawn was proud of her defense.
I mean, they were just locked in. I think it was a clear picture of how we wanted to play for our preparation. And once we worked at the last 2 days, because I thought Missouri exposed us the first time we played. They posted us up a lot, and we wanted to make sure that didn't happen very often. Because if they're going to get 9 or 10 threes, if they can get, 10 post-up baskets, they can make it a game. So we had to kind of eliminate that part of it because we know they're going to get 9 or 10 threes on anybody. It's just hard to completely shut them out when it comes to that because they move well without the ball. They see it and they make you pay, if you overhelp.
So again, Carolina has Connecticut coming up on Sunday afternoon. That's a 2 o'clock tip time, 1:30 airtime with Brad Muller on the call. Terry Ford's in here if y'all are looking on YouTube. He's making his picks for the wild card because he's got to leave.
They have a great view of Terry's face.
I got my community service.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, we weren't going to tell him that, but I'm glad you did.
Those ankle bracelets hurt.
So that's what's been beeping.
Meanwhile, Lamont Paris's team has Vanderbilt tomorrow, and Carolina is a heavy favorite in that one. The EBPI says what?
Let's go 97%.
97%. I think the official BPI, I've got to go back to that. I don't have that pulled up right now, but I think it was 92, 93. So you guys are close.
We're in the same ballpark, but I'm taking more into account that Vanderbilt is broken.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. But right now, a couple of them that I want to get to here. First off, cut one that we have on our list, Elijah. Coach Paris just discussing his team's 6-game win streak.
Yeah, I look back to the Georgia game that we lost here, and there were so many things in that game that I thought we could have done way better that were controllable, reproducible things. Those are words that we like to use a lot because, you want to have some say-so in what the outcome of the game is. And as it turns out, while you look at that and you say, oh, well, what if we would have won that game too? It may have helped us move forward in a way that we were able to win a couple of those other games that maybe we wouldn't have. So, but yeah, what an accomplishment for this group, for any group. I mean, you talk, we haven't done this since 96, you say?
97, yeah.
97, and so it's difficult. It's hard to do. And so I want to make sure we acknowledge and appreciate these guys for what they've done and what they've been able to achieve.
Absolutely.
And on that note, let's just jump right into another one here. Again, a near sellout crowd expected tomorrow afternoon against Vanderbilt. Lamont, on how things have changed inside CLA.
It was a great atmosphere. The students and the general public alike. It was phenomenal. And so hopefully we can duplicate that on Saturday because it's amazing how players respond. You get in a game where you have a lead, you give the lead up, and I keep on saying this. Our fan base is so educated in the game of basketball that they sniff out moments that we need it, that the guys need it. Whether it's a big bucket that we need, a big stop that we need, and I'm telling you, it gets the guys going in a way that there's nothing I can say that has the same impact on them as when they feel and hear the crowd like that.
Gamecocks and Vandy tomorrow afternoon. We'll have it for you here. It's a 1 o'clock start, right? 12:30 airtime?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is correct.
All right, because I don't have that pulled up either. It's really bad. It's really bad of me as a host.
Oh, it's a little thrill though too, because you get on the verge of saying it, and it's like, ooh, we're about to shoot.
Well, I've looked at it I think I've looked at it several times today, so it's sort of in my head that I'm.
You have the same thing too. Like you have to have it in front of you to feel fully confident that. Yeah.
That I'm probably right. Heck, there's sometimes when I have something in front of me and I still get it wrong. So what happens when you've been doing this for a long time?
Reading is hard, and it only gets harder.
Well, again, or like my good friend Michael Haney says to me sometimes, or at least said back in the day, if I'm just screwing it up, words. All I do. Sometimes, like when if I say to the audience, like, hey, all I want you to do is listen. My job, all I got to do is talk. And sometimes I just find a way to screw it up, man.
Whether or not the words that are assembled make sense.
Just saying.
Can be secondary.
Other headlines of the day for you. Again, a lot going on in college football at a time when typically at least this kind of news is not being made. So we'll start with what I guess began the chain reaction today. Bill O'Brien is leaving Ohio State and has finalized his deal to become the new head coach at Boston College. He just took the Ohio State gig a few weeks ago, but he interviewed in person twice this week. He's from up that way, and the formal announcement is done. So this is, when I say formal, in other words, ladies and gentlemen, and, I don't know who their president, but Father whomever, it's a Catholic school, Father whomever comes out and says, this is our new head coach. And
Father Pat, pro.
I don't know.
The ABA official.
It could be. Bill O'Brien is just 54. Of course, again, head coach of Penn State after the Sandusky scandal. And that's putting it mildly. And the Houston Texans, where he was fantastic. And he's also been on the Patriots staff multiple times under Bill Belichick. In fact, I thought he might have been one of the candidates. Now, of course, we know that Gerard Mayo had it in his contract that he was going to become the head coach whenever Bill stepped down, as long as Gerard was still on the staff. And I am surprised that O'Brien was not in the mix for one of the other 7 available NFL jobs. Because, again, in a lot of people's opinions, he did a fine job with the Texans. You and I talked about it earlier. And, that's a tough place to do a fine job, because there were some dynamics at work down there that would otherwise go against a lot of people. And he was also, of course, on the staff with Nick Saban for a couple of years at Alabama. O'Brien's wife, by the way, this is convenient. He's from Massachusetts, but Mrs. O'Brien, Colleen is her name because it says so right here. Guess where she went to college?
Boston College.
Look at that.
Wow.
Just
wicked smart.
So there you go. But that, of course, leaves a vacancy at the Ohio State University for an offensive coordinator. And you're like, oh, well, Ryan Day's got a great staff. They'll just elevate somebody or go find another hotshot coordinator that's out there that's ready to move up a level. Not so fast, my friends, as Lee Corso would say. Chip Kelly has quit as head coach of the UCLA Bruins, a school that is leaving the Pac-12 for the Big Ten.
For a conference rival.
And Chip is going to, we've already talked about this today. So for those of you getting in the car after work, this doesn't, nothing blows me away anymore. But as I had been saying for a couple of weeks, because Chip was interviewing for multiple OC jobs in the NFL, he wants out of UCLA. And now he is out. But like our buddy Seth Emerson put in a tweet, because people were saying, oh, Chip Kelly doesn't want to coach in college. Chip Kelly doesn't want to coach in the Big Ten.
No.
Check both boxes. Chip Kelly don't want to be the head coach at UCLA anymore for whatever reasons. And Elijah laid out something that, because I was sitting there saying, this feels like sabotage. And then Elijah laid out why it actually could be some form of sabotage, or at least vengeance.
If I was a head coach at a place and I dedicated a lot of time, a lot of years, and by a lot, it was like, what, 4 or 5 for Chip Kelly, which for him is a lot at a certain place. He's certainly not gathered a lot of moss, if you're catching the drift there. But he, if I were in his position and someone who, instead of, in lieu of purchasing tickets to games and donating money to the program, donated over $2,000 to a plane that carried a banner that told the administration to read the room and fire me. And after I had one of the worst games of my career there, scoring only 7 points against Cal, that a report came out that I would be fired, and felt like I was getting, jobbed a little bit. Maybe there is some little delicious irony for it to come at a point where it could really mess over said university that I worked for and didn't really do much to comfort me about my position.
Well, their athletics director has put out a statement, thank you, blah, blah, blah. And this is, again, you talk about read the room. Mitch Jarman is his name. I would think that starting about 3 weeks ago, he realized that Chip and his agent were shopping Chip's services for OC jobs in the NFL. And at that point, you begin to do your own due diligence on reaching out to potential replacements. David Shaw, the former Stanford coach, is one of the big names on the list. The best thing about David Shaw, and I don't mean this because I like David Shaw, and I know David Shaw has interviewed for gigs in the NFL and hasn't gotten any, but I know he's well respected. In fact, I was kind of thinking, David Shaw might go join Jim Harbaugh's staff because they like each other a lot. Still could potentially, who knows? But right now, and I mean this from a timing perspective, David Shaw's available. He's a great coach, and he obviously coached at Stanford for a long time, so he knows California, but he's available. And that might be less disruptive for others, but P.J. Fleck is apparently high on the list, and there's another Big Ten coach that could throw a whole other program into a state of chaos. So I don't know, but it's crazy, man. But Chip Kelly, again, clearly wanted out of UCLA, and now he is out of UCLA as the Bruin programs, all of them, but certainly his, move into the Big Ten next season, man. So, oof.
Leaving one traditional Big Ten school for another traditional Big Ten school.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just so weird.
This is disgusting. In my head for a second, I was like, yeah, David Shaw to UCLA makes sense because he can recruit in the Pac.
You just recruit in California, man.
Yeah, that's about it.
Just recruit in California.
UCLA, traditional Big Ten.
Congratulations to Gigi Jackson. Don't have a lot of detail on this yet, but if you did not hear, the former Gamecock and now current Memphis Grizzly, who was on a two-way contract after being a second. When I say two-way contract, I'll explain that in a second. Elijah knows more about it than I do, but I know what it is. After being selected in the second round last year, has been performing really well as a rookie in his NBA opportunities and has signed a 4-year contract with the Memphis Grizzlies. 3 of them are fully guaranteed. Don't have detail on what he's going to make. I imagine it's somewhere near the rookie minimum with some incentives built in. That's typically how contracts work, especially for a second-round guy. But again, a two-way contract means they've got some opportunity to keep you up at the parent club, see what's going on, or send you back down to the G League, and they can do it without having to re-sign you to, just like 30-day contracts or blah, blah, blah. But now he's got a 3-year, fully guaranteed NBA contract.
The best part is the fully guaranteed part, because the NBA, the Players Association did a pretty good job of bargaining to make sure those bad boys are fully guaranteed. So with a two-way deal, that essentially promises him membership with the Memphis Grizzlies and or the Memphis Hustle. So they've locked him up in Memphis for a little bit.
Where do the Hustle play? That's a cool
Memphis.
name. No, I mean, where do they play? Like, they have like a gym out of town somewhere, like a rec center, or
it kind of looks like a rec center. For almost every G League arena looks like it. I actually don't know where they play. I need to look that up.
That's fine. You're right. No, in Memphis. I kind of
Yeah.
figured that part out, but thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Well, you never know. Maybe they could have played it in Covington or somewhere outside of it, or those places that
Germantown.
call themselves, Germantown. So it's like, people tell you they live in Memphis, even though they actually live in, Arlington.
Sure.
Just so they don't have to explain to you where it is.
I get it. That's easier. That's how people do around here sometimes. Just say Columbia. It might be, well, you live in Irmo. It's close enough.
It's close enough. Round up.
All right, we need 2 of you right now. 803-404-6100. Time to play the big game edition of the Wild Card Showdown. 803-404-6100. I'll make some picks as the postgame show continues. All right, welcome back into the Postgame Show on this Friday. Jay and Elijah with you. Appreciate you being with us. Drive around the SEC still to come. We'll have more on Carolina basketball taking on Vandy tomorrow. Carolina UConn on Sunday. What else is going on this weekend? And more on the big game. With that in mind, cue the band, Elijah Campbell, and let's play this week's final edition, actually, of the Wild Card Showdown. Noah and Ken are ready to play. And again, the good news for you boys is that one of you is going to win our prize package, which is a $50 gift card, or gift certificate, I should say. It could be a card. I don't really know what form it comes in, but it's $50.
Novelty check.
Could be an oversized novelty check. And you will get tickets to each game of the opening series, Gamecock Baseball, a week from today down at Founders Park. So with that in mind, Noah, happy Friday. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank y'all.
You bet. Ken, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing all right, man. Again, it's Friday, so it's good. I'm here for Friday. All right, Terry and Tyler have already made their picks because they bolted. They're getting drunk early ahead of the big game, apparently, or something to that effect. So here we go. We had a lot of prop bets in here, guys. All right, a lot of prop bets. So pay attention, and here we go. We'll have some fun with it. We'll have the spread too, and that's what we'll start with. Noah, you'll go first. The spread as of this afternoon is San Francisco minus 1.5 over the Chiefs. What do you like, Noah?
I'll take the Niners.
The Niners minus the points. Ken?
I'll take the Chiefs.
Kansas City plus the points. Tyler and Terry have both taken Kansas City. Terry filled out his own instead of me, so it's very weird for me right now when I look down.
Can you read it?
Yeah, I can read it, but it's just he's left-handed, and like I remember left-handed people, they write different, and it's just throwing me off.
He probably has half the ink on his arm.
Yeah, but he didn't cheat, which is good.
No.
It's all legit. So they've taken it. Elijah Campbell, you like?
Yeah, give me the chefs.
Kansas City. I, too, am going to take Kansas City plus the points. So, again, Noah is either on a rocky outcropping or a beautiful oasis somewhere when it comes to an island. Over-under, guys. Ken, you'll start this one off. The over-under, 47.5. What do you like, Ken?
I'll take the over.
Over. I've been flirting with this one. Noah?
Yeah, I like the over.
Did you?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay.
We got you, Ken. Yeah, over. Yeah, all right. Noah wants the over. Tyler has taken the over. Terry has taken the under. Defense, man. This is going to be a defensive game. You know, but that's a really low. I mean, it's like if it was a tie, it'd be like 24-24 almost kind of a thing. That seems too low, right? Which is why that's what it'll be. Give me the under.
Okay, nice.
Elijah Campbell.
I've been rolling with NFL primetime unders all year. Why stop now?
Under. All right. All right, here we go. Let's see. Prop bet time for the rest of us. I'll start. First team to score. That's it. Just first team to score, which is an easy one to follow for a prop bet. And I will say that the first team to score will be San Francisco. Terry and Tyler have also picked San Francisco to score first. Elijah?
Let's get back into the kitchen. Give me the chefs.
Kansas City will score first, says Elijah. Noah?
I'll take the Devo.
All right. San Francisco. Ken?
I'll take Kansas City.
Kansas City to score first. Way to be different, man. Somebody need to be different on that one. Just why not, right?
Me and him on the island.
Yeah. All right. The first team to commit a penalty. Terry has taken San Francisco. Tyler has taken Kansas City. Noah?
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Ken?
I'll take Kansas City, too.
Kansas City. I'm going to take the Niners. I really don't know why. It's almost like picking the coin flip, but I just, you know.
It's a mental coin flip.
Yeah, why not? Elijah?
Yeah, I'm going to go not only with the Chiefs, but I'm calling my shot and say it'll be Jawan Taylor, who is the most often penalized player in football.
Oh, my.
You
get that right. Make sure we make a note of that.
If we get that right, it'll be a false start.
5:25 on Friday. We'll find it in the archive. Okay, guys, wild card time now. A different prop bet for each of us. Let me give you the ones that Terry and Tyler have already done. Terry had pass yards for Brock Purdy over under 246.5, and Terry has taken the under. All right. Tyler, meanwhile, had a yes/no question. Will there be a non-offensive touchdown? Which is a great. I like this one a lot. I wish I kind of had this one, but I didn't get it. And he said yes. So special teams, defensive score, anything other than a non-offensive touchdown, whatever. So Tyler says yes. Noah, your prop bet is an over-under. Total interceptions in the game. Over under 1.5, Noah.
Yeah, over.
Over. Ken, your prop bet. Yes, no question. Will either team score on its opening drive? That's an offensive drive, Ken. Will either team score on its opening drive? Yes, no.
No.
No. All right, there you go. Yeah, feel it out defensively. Again, defensive struggle. It's a good answer. Elijah? First touchdown jersey number. In other words, the person that scores the touchdown, an odd number or an even number?
Let's go odd, because I'll take the grouping that includes Travis Kelce, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel.
That's a pretty solid one in my opinion. And mine is over under Patrick Mahomes pass yards, 262.5. Man, I could see like 280, right? Not 300 though. Give me the over. Barely. Finally, guys, tiebreaker stat: combined receiving yards for George Kittle and Travis Kelce, the all-pro tight ends. Kittle and Kelce, combined receiving yards. Terry says 150. Tyler says 170. Noah, I'll let you go next.
I'll go 190.
190. Ken?
195.
195. I'll let Elijah go last today. I'm going to go probably in the middle of Terry and Tyler. Smack in there. 160 combined receiving yards.
148.
140. You know, it would have been great if you'd done one. Well, can't do both. One. So find a way to stick it to Ford after he stuck it to some listener the other day and did the $1 Bob.
It was coincidental.
Yeah. All right, Noah, Ken, you guys are all in. And again, typically you got to beat, at least two of us to win the prize. But today, basically, you guys are head-to-head. So whichever of you does better wins the prize package, $50 to O'Hara's, plus tickets to all 3 Carolina baseball games next weekend. Boys, we appreciate you listening to us. We appreciate you playing along. Enjoy the weekend. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it's Noah. That's Ken. I like these. We just to let y'all know, borrowing from FanDuel, but then we came up with a couple on our own. But we had fun coming up with the prop bets for today's edition of the Big Game Wildcard Showdown.
And had to exclude a few that we tossed around. I thought of one after we already decided everything that would have been interesting.
Yeah? You want a bonus? Just for you and me?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, what is it?
We'll eat a team.
Tell you what. Hold on.
Okay.
Save it.
Okay.
Save it.
Good radio trick.
Well, it's either that or here's another good radio trick. I like my job, and I know that we're up against a hard break.
We are. That's been a challenge.
So I don't want to do that. So Elijah has a prop bet. I don't know what it is. And we'll do the drive around the SEC as the postgame show continues.
From the WIS Traffic Center, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on our roadways here this Friday afternoon. We'll start off here in Richland County on Bower Parkway at Piney Grove Road. That accident has been reported for a while to be slowing down traffic through that area. Another one on Forest Drive at Highway 12 near Percival Road. That one has been causing traffic to move pretty slowly there for about the last hour or so. In Lexington County on Highway 1 near Augusta Road at I-20, an accident's been reported on the ramp to 20 East, so things are moving pretty slowly on that ramp. And then, of course, in Lexington County, you have one more on Highway 1 at Augusta Road over at I-26 as well.
It is drive around the SEC time, but before we do that, so as not to hold off too much longer, a bonus prop bet between Elijah and me. But now, what if we both pick it though, and then it's just not really a bonus, just for fun.
Yeah.
So we don't have to necessarily go against one another here.
Just for giggles.
But we might.
Thought exercise.
We might.
Yeah. So
since we promised that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just another fun one. Mm-hmm. Will either team miss a field goal or extra point?
Yes.
I feel pretty good about yes, too.
Yes.
Even though Harrison Butker's automatic. It's not him I'd be worried about.
Nerves.
Jake Moody, the rookie kicker from Michigan, who was drafted by the 49ers this past year, has shanked a few. Even this playoff run, he shanked a few.
Nerves. Even, you can do all you can to try and not be nervous, but you will be.
And then to advance it, do we get a Scott Norwood? I call this a Scott Norwood special. Do we have a missed field goal in the last 2 minutes? And I'll make it juicier of either half. Within both 2-minute warnings, do we have a Scott Norwood special?
No.
Okay.
No. If it happens, we're going to get we'll be a game winner at the end of the first half, but no. If somebody has to do that in the second half,
you think they nail it?
They're going to nail it.
Yeah. Then it becomes the Adam Vinatieri special.
Yeah.
He did that all.
You know what would be another good one? Like a field goal distance over under.
Ooh, the longest field goal of the game?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a good one.
Like over under 48, 46 and a half, somewhere in that range.
49.5 even. That way that insinuates 50-plus yarders.
These NFL dudes can kick them, man.
That's right. Most of them.
What was the first one that we said we were going to do? Oh, will there be a missed field goal? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I feel good about a missed field goal happening.
Yeah. Yes. That's where I'm gonna land on yes. All right. Time for our drive around the SEC. We'll start with what the basketball schedule looks like tomorrow across the conference, and we will get you some more sound from Coach Paris, whose team hosts Vanderbilt. That is at 1 o'clock tomorrow. The first game of the day. Why do they do this? It's an 11 o'clock start. Nobody wants to get up in Baton Rouge and go to an 11 o'clock basketball game, even if it's Alabama. I mean, and again,
be a lot of hair and a dog in it.
I mean, have Florida Auburn start at noon in Gainesville instead of Florida Auburn starting at 3:30, or have the Carolina Vandy game start at noon Eastern, and then have that one start at noon Central. I'm just trying to look out for people. I am here for the people.
It's gonna be a hungover arena there in Baton Rouge.
I mean, the Maravich Center will be half full, right?
I think so. I think people will be there.
They probably will.
Just,
but that would come with nobody wants to start at 11 o'clock.
Enthusiasm might not be as amped.
Do the people that make these decisions for Disney / ESPN, are they in Bristol or are they in Burbank? Probably Bristol, huh?
I reckon. Yeah, that's tough.
That's an East Coast bias kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm an East Coast guy. And as I say, to all the people who sometimes complain, like, why is it always East Coast time? I was like, well, because half the nation's population lives in the Eastern time zone.
It is the most populated time zone.
Yeah.
By
easily.
a lot.
Oh, easily. Again, so it's basically half. I think it's like 48-point-something%. So basically half. Anyway, Bama at LSU tomorrow. That's at noon. Again, Auburn at Florida, 3:30. Gonzaga, that's not a conference game, but the Zags are at Kentucky tomorrow, kind of like Carolina UConn. Let me just say, the Zags need that win.
It's a desperation.
Ahead of the season, this is a fun game. And kudos to Coach Few and Coach Cal for agreeing to this, just like Coach Don and Gino do. Because they're great games, but they might get you out of a rhythm, or you want it to have that tournament feel, but you're not really in tournament mode yet. Again, you are in regular season mode. That's why I didn't take issue with it. But like when Carolina was at Baton Rouge the other day for the women's game, like, oh, it had a tournament feel. I was like, no, it didn't. This is regular season basketball. There was no neutral court. That was about 13,000 whatever, and about 100 of them were pulling for Carolina, if that.
It's a hostile environment.
Yeah, and I'm good with that. Like that's good. Let's allow the regular season to be the regular season. I think too much now that whether it's men's or women's basketball, we're all just it's all about the tournament. And I get it, but
it's the most fun part.
But that was not a tournament game. That was a regular season game, and Carolina was the visitor, and again, hostile. Yeah, Connecticut's going to be the visiting team.
And it will be a hostile environment.
So there's that. But a good opportunity for the Zags, who are 17-6 right now. So that could be a nice 18th win and definitely a quad one opportunity.
Because you know what they don't have this year? A quad one
win.
They got a donut in that category.
Well, because, and that's one of the reasons they were flirting with the idea of moving to the Big 12 for basketball.
Would have been awesome.
And that'd be great. But, they play all their hard games typically in December, but this is one of them.
And they just happened to lose all of them this year.
Kentucky, for what it's worth, just a 4.5-point favorite. Georgia will be at Arkansas. Mississippi State will be at Missouri. Maybe Missouri finally gets a win. Probably not. But a really good game tomorrow night in College Station as Tennessee visits A&M. Again, A&M is a team that is currently in, barely. But and we know Tennessee is going to be. Tennessee would have to. Well, there's a term for it that I won't use. Has to do with a bed, in order to not make it. But this is a good chance for Buzz and A&M to get a nice win.
Yeah. To use your analogy, Tennessee does not need to go to sleep in this game, because I think that's what you meant.
No. Something else.
You might have to elaborate then.
I'll tell you later.
But yeah, that's a game that would add to.
Don't crap the bed. How's that?
There you go. Okay. Oh yeah. But Tennessee can't do that if they would like to hold on to a top 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, because you know what this would be?
Tell me.
A pretty big quad one win.
Yep. And then women's basketball for you. Again, Carolina stepping out of conference, obviously, on Sunday to take on Connecticut, but there is SEC basketball beyond that. Vandy will be at Georgia on Sunday, Auburn at Mizzou, Florida at State, Bama at LSU. Taking the girls and the guys over to Baton Rouge this weekend. That's nice. Like high school ball.
Yeah, group outing.
Yeah, I like
except
that.
we're playing games on different days. It'd be a traditional doubleheader.
That was always
really
fun, right? That's one thing I like about high school basketball. Girls play, and the guys play. That was always good. And then A&M will be at Kentucky. That's the women's basketball slate for you coming up on Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. All right. The last game tips at 4 so that they don't coincide with the Super Bowl. That's probably smart.
It is, yes. Now just here's to hoping postgame doesn't run.
What other live sporting events might be taking place? Like, why do I think there's something out there somewhere that's going to be a live collegiate sporting event that starts at 6?
It just won't be in this hemisphere.
Okay. Well, American college. There won't be anything else, right?
Nada. Zilch.
Okay. Nothing.
Do you value people watching your sport?
Right.
If the answer is yes, you will not play anything. If the answer is no, then it's up to you.
We'll have more on Lamont Paris's team taking on Vandy tomorrow, and our final picks for the big game as the post-game show continues. That, by the way, with the drive around the SEC, brought to you by Herndon Chevy, your hometown Chevy dealer. Stop by the showroom, see why Herndon makes you smile. Jay and Elijah back with some more picks as we continue.
No, it's just how it happened. I thought our post had a, really good week of practice, and then Lay's just really been locked in on both sides of the basketball. So she's getting pretty serious about this game and the prep for it, and really understanding what it takes to play at a high level on a consistent basis. And I mean, it's all her.
Dawn Staley last night on her team winning without star center Camila Cardoso, who, by the way, is playing in an Olympic qualifying tournament for Brazil. They lost last night to Australia, who's the number 3 ranked team in the world, 60-55. Camila played well. They've still got a couple of left, but didn't. I think they don't have to win. It's a little mini tournament. It's like a round robin thing. They don't have to win it, but they've got to. I think they got to win at least.
There are certain benchmarks you have to reach.
They're going to have to win at least one of them, and then maybe there's some other factors in there. But fell to Australia last night. And again, Dawn and her women's basketball team, only undefeated team left in the country, taking on Nemesis, Connecticut. By the way, Dawn and Gino did announce that the series will continue. Next year, it's going to be in Columbia again, because a couple of years ago, Carolina went to Connecticut 2 years in a row. And so they're going to balance that out. So next year in Columbia again, then up in Stores or Hartford. I don't know which. But that's how it's going to work. So that's good.
Very nice.
That's good.
A recurring rivalry like that is really good for the sport.
And I guess, you don't want to really set up a thing with Iowa, because Caitlin will be gone probably after this season. She could technically come back with a COVID year if she wants to use it. People have been saying, well, she'll make more money at Iowa. I'm like, here's the thing. She can make her endorsement money and make some WNBA money.
Yeah.
And I would imagine she's probably done with school. I mean, she has been in school 4 years.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think you're making more money at Iowa.
I'd whatever she wants to do, man.
Yeah, up to her.
I don't. That's up to her. Gamecocks take on Vandy tomorrow. One of the things that I found interesting the other night, Carolina, did win the ball game against Mississippi, but had a 17-point lead that was cut to 3.
Mm-hmm. Low as it got.
And Lamont said in postgame he likes to have his guys learn on the fly. Doesn't like to call timeouts. Cut 3, please, Elijah. This is more from last night's Carolina calls with Coach and Derek on why that's part of his coaching philosophy.
Typically, I do. I do like to. I think it varies situation by situation. Some of it's the team that you have and how experienced they are. Some of it's the reason that the team's going on a run. Sometimes the team goes on a run and you don't have a lot of control over it. They're playing a super high level of basketball. Other times, a team goes on a run and you've contributed to it with some controllable things that you have failed to do. But oftentimes, generally speaking, I do. I like my players to dig their way out of it. I don't want to. They have to find their own answer sometimes, and we believe in that even at practice. I think you get so many times they look for an answer and they regurgitate maybe what you feed them. We try to develop a culture where they have to find their own answers, and hopefully that'll serve them well in life as they move on too. But yeah, a lot of times I let them dig their way out. At some point, I'll see that this is really going in a way that I don't think we're going to dig our way out, and I'll call a timeout. But honestly, for the most part, oftentimes I'll let our team try to fight their way through it.
I'm a big soccer fan, and yet there's no timeouts in soccer, and I can't tell you how many times through the years, because I've been a soccer fan a long time, but I'm an American sports fan, and when things are working against you, by and large, again, you can stop. And I find myself so many times, whether I'm watching the United States men's national team or Arsenal or whatever, I'm like, God, call timeout. Like, you're just this is getting bad. You're like, oh, you can't.
That's when you take a dive.
Well, yeah, that's when a dude has to flop or go down or something, or something like that. Of course, we see that in football now, especially college football with spread offenses and things, where you see a big lineman just like fall like a giant sequoia in California.
On command.
Like, what's wrong with Timmy? Nothing. Yeah.
We're getting a timeout.
Right.
But no, we've seen that a few times from Lamont. Finally, I think against Mizzou when it got to 11-0 after that, after the last Saturday, right? Yeah, that was last. Wasn't that last? Last Saturday.
Tomorrow, right?
Yeah, a week for yesterday, or a week for tomorrow, or a week ago tomorrow, whatever the heck we're trying to say.
Words.
Words. Time, space continuum.
It's not even real.
But it, it started to work against him. So anyway,
Phil Jackson philosophy. Phil Jackson wrote in his book in the last season about how his entire career he never liked calling timeouts because they see things on the floor that he doesn't get to see or feel as a coach. This is the difference between players and coaches. And while he will use timeouts occasionally to draw up certain plays, he feels like the situation really needs it. He never liked having to get the players out of their method of figuring the things out on the floor that they would have a different perspective than what he would just standing on the sideline.
Well, and sometimes I wonder too, and maybe this is part of Lamont's point, is it an admission that, boy, we're just stinking it up right now, rather than you guys, just go look over at the coach. Well, make it better. I got 27-24, Kansas City. I took the over, slight, but I got the over. Kansas City, 27-24.
I got Kansas City, 23-20.
All right, so you got the under.
And you know what? Travis Kelce's the MVP.
All right. Man, that'll make some heads explode. Looking forward to it. I told somebody today I just want the game to be close with 5 minutes to go. Y'all enjoy it. We'll see you Monday.